My wife thinks I should win a Nobel. My wife, Nadia, hates me, so it's really saying something. She says I astonish her. That's quite the compliment, but I vastly prefer the arguments of just a month ago when she'd yell at me about how cold I've become, and I'd rifle back by calling her a bitch. This is a brief story, but I suppose I should back up. I filed for divorce on July 4th, 2020, Independence Day. It wasn't a long time coming. I thought I'd stay with that woman till death did us part. We had only been fighting regularly for the last 5 years. My wife, my love, Nadia, the neurotic neurologist with a face of deep wrinkles forged from stress and cigarettes. Just 40 years old last year, but unfortunately for her, 40 is not the new 30. Brain surgeons aren't looking any younger. The truth will come out anyway if I'm telling an accurate account of this horror, so I might as well get ahead of it. I'm vain. Perhaps a better word is shallow. Beauty to me has always been skin deep, and the moral of the ugly duckling was that he wasn't ugly forever. Thank God. Nadia was fucking gorgeous. But please know the tense. Around her 35th birthday, I began to blanch when I woke up next to her in the morning. How can just 10 years eclipse a face so pretty? I know Nadia went harder on herself than most. 18-hour surgeries concluding with no heartbeat. All that work just to be berated by the family. Couldn't you have done more? I get it. I'm sympathetic to her stress. She's by far and away the breadwinner, but that doesn't mean I was ready to be married to someone who looked so old so soon. I didn't not love her, but I just knew I could do so much better, and with so much life left to live. I'm only 36 years old. I was still a handsome young man with the world at my fingertips. I could easily date a girl who's 30 and get another 10-year head start on father time. Besides, I thought, Nadia will be fine. She's brilliant and ambitious. We don't have any kids to worry about. A divorce was far from the end of the world. It happens. I can see what you think. I know it's pathetic to only be wed till wrinkles do us part. But it was done. She was served on the 4th of July, after her friends went home, sulfur smoke still hanging under the streetlights. She asked why, and I should have lied. But I told her her beauty had run off, leaving me walking next to a face I didn't care to recognize. She didn't even look at me. She just stared at the grass and cried. It was hard on me, too. I felt awful, truly. But we were adults. We didn't yell or scream. This would end amicably. Okay, it wasn't that simple. I wanted some of her money. But just enough to live on. I wasn't going to bleed her dry. She had plenty of the stuff and hardly ever spent it. The next week, I was living in the basement while the lawyers worked it all out. Nadia had been too furious to even speak with me. When I told her that I wasn't going to rent a place yet but move downstairs instead, she didn't nod or acknowledge me. She just walked away. One night when I was watching TV, she had snuck up behind me. It wasn't intentional. Our home was one of those suburban monstrosities with thick carpets that swallowed sound. Richard! I jumped and spilled my chips and salsa all down my shirt. Nadia, what the fuck? I said with my mouth full. I'm watching Knight Rider. We should talk. She held up a fifth of whiskey and wiggled it. About us. My eyes bulged like child's when I saw the bottle. It was a Yamazaki 1999, a $2,000 bottle of whiskey that Nadia had once chastised me from buying myself. Sure, babe. I'm not your babe. Right, I didn't care. I was salivating already. Eyes on that beautiful amber bottle. After just one glass, things got hazy. But I wasn't worried. Nadia wasn't the poisoning type. She was far smarter than that. But before we'd even dented the bottle, the world went black. I woke in some kind of coma. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't hear anything. But there wasn't even my relentless tinnitus ring, accumulated from a youth of Korn concerts. There was nothing. Nothing for every sense. No smell, no sight, no taste. I couldn't even feel my tongue. Is this the purgatory that coma patients feel? I began to panic, but was even more disturbed when I couldn't feel my heartbeat. There was no surge of adrenaline in my gut. I couldn't scream. I pictured myself strapped to a bed in the guest room, Nadia smiling over me as she propped my head under a pillow, getting the last laugh after all. But this was wrong. Nadia's worst nightmare would be taking of an incontinent Richard. My worry faded as I could finally see. Pinpoints of light appeared in the distance. It looked like night sky, but the darkness in the space between the stars was absolute, a galactic black. The little lights grew and the dark was erased. The pinpoints, I realized, were pixels. I was looking at a gigantic screen. A cursor blinked in a text box. "Hello, Richard. It's your ancient-looking wife. If you can hear me, look down." I looked down and realized that I couldn't blink, and I couldn't close my eyes. I began looking around the screen frantically when more words flashed across the screen. "I'm sorry, you can't close them, but don't worry. I've got you on a cycle of eye drops. You should know I was an inch away from taking your eyes, but I have something you need to see." I desperately wanted to hear my heart thump in my chest, to not just think fear, but to feel it in my body. But I was paralyzed. The signals I sent to my arms and legs went unanswered. A video player appeared on the screen. It was our wedding video, bits of it playing in a montage. There I was, handsome in a brown suit, and Nadia was beautiful. Her cheeks youthful, burning with blush. We kissed, fed each other cake. My eyes got wetter and the video stopped. "There's one more I want to show you now." "It's a time-lapse," she typed. "One photo every 4 hours under 24-hour light." She pulled up a new tab. Hit play. Oh God. I tried to scream, but I was more than speechless. In the video, outside under a floodlight, my severed head sat on a mound of mud. I couldn't believe what I saw. It was me, my head, but I was clearly dead. Where my eyes should have been in my head were twin black holes, and my dead mouth sagged in a sad clown smile. The frame switched. Another 4 hours passed, and my skin peeled a little from my skull. It was too high quality to be some kind of deepfake. It was too real. The frames continued to flash. Bugs and worms crawled out of the earth and into the eye sockets. My cheeks began to bloat and then blackened with swarms of flies. A few seconds later, the flesh burst to reveal balls of maggots swarming beneath the skin. My skin. But it can't be. I'm watching a video. I can see the fucking buffer bar. There are no video players in hell, right? The decomposition continued. The maggots hatched into flies that abandoned my head as soon as most of the skin on the skull had rotted away, and the time-lapse stopped. The video played normally, and Nadia's feet appeared on camera. She squatted so she was in frame. She smiled. She waved. She snapped on a pair of purple latex gloves, then picked up my head and took off the top of my skull, as if it was some kind of Halloween decoration. This can't be. She tilted the skull towards the camera. My head was hollow, my skull brainless. Nadia smiled, and the video vanished. The cursor was back, blinking for several seconds on the screen before words began to appear. Isn't that funny? You thought I was getting old. Look at you, Richard. Time has already taken you back to the earth. I wasn't dead, I realized. But I couldn't understand how I was experiencing reality after watching the video. Did she clone me? Make some kind of model of my head? The typing continued. I haven't enabled it yet, but you will be able to type using your eyes. Kinda like Stephen Hawking. She stopped for a moment. That was a stupid thing to write. Please know you're nothing like Stephen Hawking. Second thing is you'll have access to the internet. You're very special now, Richard. I'd like to keep you entertained. I'd like to keep you alive. But as incredible as you are, your appearance is disgusting. It's pathetic. You look like something beached waiting to be picked apart by gulls. I knew then what she'd done to me, and I wish I could say my heart stopped. I'll paint you a picture. Your brain sits in a 50-gallon tank with your spinal cord fishboning out behind you. Your eyes are set above the fluid, still connected to your brain, but they're inside tubes that look out only to the screen you see now. Without eyelids, they'd have a constant look of cartoonish surprise. They make me laugh. Your heart is artificial. It's a metal box that pumps oxygenated blood through your brain at 60 beats per minute. I can reach out and pat it. The typing paused. Just like that. I've always wondered if this procedure was possible. It turns out you are an astonishment. A work of scientific genius you never had a chance of being with a body. You cost every dollar I ever saved. And I think you can win the Nobel Prize in Physiology. Even without a face, I can still see you in there, Richard. And I really do think you're still beautiful like this. I would have loved you as you grew wrinkly and old. I loved you, naively, for who you were. Why couldn't you have thought the same of me? The typing stopped. She wanted me to think about that. And I have been for some time now, because she hasn't typed anything since. It's been 24 days now, and I roam the internet with my eyes. Every day is an existential crisis. Every day I try to find an identity. Take away our faces, our skin, and our scars, and we're all the same plain gray matter. I was never a handsome young man with the world at my fingertips. I lived inside one. I'm a lonely mind in a black vat of liquid. How horrifying to realize that this is what I always was. That even when I had a body and a face to admire in the mirror, I was just as I am now. Nothing but a brain in a box.